Pagoo, Chapter 10. A concrete tile can crawl both ways. Once again, Pagurus was looking for a home. He hiked into Tidepool Town, kicking at every snail shell, but all were occupied. Found an inch-long tube, a hollow concrete tile built by a tube snail. It had come from a tangled mass of tubes cemented to a rock by a colony of snails who stay home and eat sea soup. Pagoo tapped the tube, felt around one empty end, and snapped into it quickly. Inside this place was smoother than his penthouse barnacle and comfortable. Pagoo could drag this tube home where he wished while hunting food. He didn't have to depend on a landlady. He wasn't trapped under a pearly dome. Pagoo rested. For no reason, the tube began moving. Pagoo stretched out his claws and front feet, dug into the sand to anchor things, and the tube stopped. This was very odd. No large animal was around. No danger seemed near. Yet the tube had moved. Why should Pagoo be nervous? He who already had been sculpin swallowed, gull hoisted, hard beach walloped? He jumped out and ran to the other end of the tunnel. He found the other end stuffed with feelers. 2 small gloves showed Pagoo that another hermit lived there, a hermit just his size, who did not seem glad to see him. In fact, this rumor at the other end of the hall pinched Pagoo hard. Then Pagoo remembered that he was Pagurus, a two-fister built for fighting. The trouble was, this other fellow was a two-fisted fighter too. They locked in mighty battle, a pair of polka dots punching each other. Both were so interested in fighting that Pagoo's opponent forgot to cling to his smooth, straight tube, and Pagoo snatched him into the open. Around and around they fought, rather careful of their tender rears, until a fish shadow swooped down at them. Then each dashed into an end of the tunnel. They had switched ends, but that didn't matter now. Both retreated until they were touching back to back in the hallway, their trusty weapons covering both open doors. They seemed ready to fight together against the world. But fighting together against the world is not for hermit crabs. Hermits seldom do things together, and these two certainly did not show teamwork. When Pagoo wished to travel in one direction, the hallmates stubbornly crawled the other way, so both dug into the tide pool floor and pulled until something came loose. Sometimes Pagoo was hauled from his end. Sometimes his haul partner was dragged out. After fisticuffs, they would return to the hall, lean out from their separate doorways, and start walking again, in different directions, of course. It was easier when both wanted to graze on the same algae-covered rock. Then, for once, they worked together like 2 oxen, dragging the snail tube sideways like a yoke between them. But mostly they squabbled and fought, and little by little Pagoo proved himself the stronger. At last he was dragging the tube his way, while the other gave up and went along for the ride. It was hard on Pagoo, but it made his tiny body stronger still. At each bracing new tide, hermit crabs came alive to tangle in happy boxing games. Hermits of one size were matched together, so that many classes and weights were going at once, as in a big gymnasium. The prizes were snail-shell trunks, with young hermits always growing and molting and needing new trunks half a size larger. Old trunks were forever being tossed off and new ones tried on. As in a game of musical chairs, someone would be left with no pants to sit in. In one of these friendly battles, Pagoo grabbed a shell. He had dragged his unwilling hallmate across the arena to mix in a scuffle with hermits his size, and the gloves were going in a water flurry beautiful to see. When many fighters had changed places, Pagoo was left near a horn shell, tapered like a trumpet. Its owner had left it to try on a new one for size, decided against that, and dashed home, right into Pagoo. Pagoo leaped, blocking the other's rush. Holding the other off, he popped his own curved rear into that horn shell. At last, Pagoo was in, not in a rounded shell as yet, for this graceful beauty was shaped like a toy tin horn, but it had been made by a sure enough snail that walked on a foot, and it fitted Pagoo. No more of this dragging somebody around wherever he went. This shell made him safe from behind. When his larger glove plunged the doorway and his smaller glove covered the peek hole that was left, Pagoo was as snug as a pickle corked up in a bottle. So Pagoo was suddenly secure on his own, independent. Yes, he owned a castle that doubled as a house trailer. How light it was, how easily handled. He zoomed up a steep rock, banged down a canyon of sensitive muscles, and braked just in time to miss hitting traveling towers. Aha! So some stranger now had his old penthouse. Silly boy. He needn't expect free meat for every dinner. But let the dimwit find that out for himself. And the fat old landlady, lopping along with the load as usual. Remember little Pagoo? Look at him now. But she only plodded on. Pagoo made his trailer perky again with a burst of speed. He stopped at the worn old snail tube. He glimpsed a new roomer where he had so recently lived. But for his own quick wit, Pagoo himself might still be there. Ah, Pagoo was the quick, the clever, the strong one with the sleek new outfit. He stared at his old hallmate and motioned him to come on out and fight. Clenching his claws, he waggled his eyes, and then, in mounting excitement, Pagoo did a very rash thing. He hopped right out of his brand new shell and fairly pranced around in victory. Immediately he knew that he shouldn't have done it. Something rushed past him. What? How? Oh no. His old partner had grabbed Pagoo's new shell, was even now swishing his feelers in a gesture of triumph, and a rowdy hermit gang was coming at Pagoo. He had to retreat right back into that same old tube.